Okay, let's talk about the villains. Yeah, so, okay, I'll start by saying this. Mobius as a concept is very interesting. I like the whole concept of Mobius. I like it a lot. Because, I didn't expect this game to have the themes that it did. The theme of basically stagnation. We don't want to advance, we don't want to grow, we don't want to mature, we don't want to continue. But maybe we should. Maybe we should stop this endless cycle, develop, continue, grow, mature, and advance. So I like that. I like that theme. Mobius was a very good villain group, organization to represent that. But I think the problems arose with, of course, Zed being kind of one note, unfortunately. The thing is with Zed is the more you saw of him, the more you had hopes, like, oh, this guy, like, does he have any connection to Klaus? Does he have any connection to the Conduit? Any of that? And then you realize how simple his existence is in the world. When Nia's like, oh, people didn't want to, like, advance, people didn't want to, like, people were just worried, people were just apprehensive of the future. What would happen if Origin fails? What would happen if, like, the worlds aren't rebuilt? What would happen? Thus created Mobius. It's an interesting concept, but the fact that Zed was portrayed the way he was, so regal, so, like, mysterious and, like, very foreboding in, like, the first set, like, 3/4 of the game, and then you realize, oh, you're just like, people willed him into existence, and you're like, oh, okay, let's see, and then you fight him, and he's like, and you're like, why are you doing this? Why are you, like, making this, like, endless war? And he's like, oh, it just makes me happy, it amuses me, and you're like, sure. If there was more that Zed had to say about that whole, like, why he was doing this, because he has some really cool lines about stagnation and the endless now and the fate of, like, the flow and all that stuff. So I was just like, oh, he's like, oh, it amuses me. I'm like, sure, whatever, fine, as long as there's better villains in this game, which there were. I will say, some of the, like, I'm gonna get to the better villains a little later, but I'm just gonna say some of the Mobius personalities were very just fun to watch. Like, D, or Dirk. Dirk was very interesting. I will say that, as a taunting, menacing villain, you got, like, you got Metalface or Mumkar in the first. You got Malus, which is, like, more, like, Malus is, like, more of a villain than Metalface, Mumkar, and Dirk, D. But, I'll just compare D with Mumkar. And the thing is, like, D was a very cool villain. I honestly think he was more frightening of a villain than Mumkar was. Because Mumkar just got a little silly at times, and then you're like, oh, you're the, like, coward from the beginning of the game who, like, ran away. Yeah, let's just finish you off, kind of, right? D was actually frightening because he straight up, like, killed Uni in another life. Uni is frightened for her life, like, looking at this menacing, monstrous, hulking, just monstrosity in front of her. Like, this thing killed me in another life, and I somehow remember it. But she, like, gets over her fear, and that was really, really awesome to see. Like, her coming to terms with, like, I can still, like, have purpose in this life, even though, like, my life was cut short at some other point. So it was cool, but, like, you don't get an idea of who he really is until you get to the Cloud Keep. and then he says, "Oh, this is who I am," and then you're like, "Oh, I read about you in the textbooks." And like Tyon says something like that, and you're like, "Oh, okay. What if we like knew this earlier?" I mean, it wouldn't have made a difference, but it's fine. Urine was an interesting villain. I just found it weird that he was paired up with D of all people. It's fine, whatever. But I think Yoren's whole arc exemplifies like the Mobius desire the most, but it also does it in such a strange way. I don't know. He wasn't a very likable character, but in the end you kind of like feel for him at the end, so alright. K was hilarious. I loved K, because K was like the silly villain, like Zord. I love Zord. And then there's Dougal. I hated Dougal. Dougal was silly villain. Zord was amazing though, so I was like, if K is like Zord, I'm gonna love this guy. And I loved him. He was just there for one boss fight, but he was like responsible, or not responsible, he was present in one of my favorite cutscenes in the game where you destroy the first flame clock. Loved it. First time you hear Weight of Life. Also, speaking of Weight of Life, it's one of the best songs in the entire series. It's so good, but you only hear it twice. I was so sad to hear it only twice, because think about this, engage the enemy, you hear it at least 10 times in the game. Counterattack, you at least hear it 5, if not more times in the game. Weight of Life, you only hear it twice? Like, there were so many cutscenes where I was like, Weight of Life is gonna play now, and it didn't. So, whatever. Fine. Just a little upset about that. Oh yeah, back to villains. Now I will finally talk about N and M, the best villains of this game. Some very good Xenoblade villains as well. I will say this, I don't consider M a villain. I consider her maybe an anti-hero, but if you think about it, M never wanted to be Mobius. Maybe she was doing like the whole Mobius killings and whatnot, and just doing it for like just to survive, but at the same time, like she was not enjoying it at all. Like if you look at the flashback of when N destroyed the city just so M could live, she's like, why did you do this? Like this is not like, she was just not having it. So like think about that, like thousands of years of living and just hating the fact that you have not peacefully like left this world. It's sad, because I will say this, Xenoblade games really like hit you in the feels. And I will talk about N and M first, and then I'll talk about like chapter 5 and stuff. But here's the thing, N and M, it was really cool seeing their past as the previous Noahs and Mios, and seeing Noah fail over and over, continuously lose Mio, continuously lose her, and then you just see him like when he's there with his son and he loses Mio again, you feel like something has like changed with him. Just something has triggered him to like be like, I can't take this anymore. I can't take this anymore. So he chooses the endless now. And the whole thing about N is like, I didn't really like, I was just like, oh, evil Noah, and then I just sat down and thought about it. This guy has been mercilessly killing people for thousands and thousands of years just so he can like be with the woman he loves, who does not want this life with him at all. Like he like N is just holding on to existence, eternity, the endless now. And it's just a fascinating concept. And it's literally like, it's a better representation of this whole like theme of the game, like the stagnation, like endless now theme. It's done so much better than what is done with Zed. When you think about Zed and like how he ends off like, I hate this world, I hate it, and you're like, this whole idea was portrayed so much better with N than it was with you. Like it's whatever, but honestly it's fine. N, fantastic villain. I have to think about it more. Do I like him better than Egil and Jin? Because Egil and Jin are just exemplary video game villains, fictional villains, Xenoblade villains. Amazing. N is up there, and it's amazing that he, like, I literally thought he was just gonna be evil Noah, like, but he's not. He's a totally different character, and that also speaks to the quality and the outstanding performance of Harry McIntyre, who voices both, of course, Noah and N, but he does such a good job voicing two very different, like, characters with very different psyches, personalities, motivations, desires, all that. Just so well done, so well done.